In a previous video I made some outdoor sofas and there'll be a link to that video down below in the description. And in this video I'm going to use up some of the 3x2 or 63x38mm pressure treated timber offcuts from that project to make a really simple coffee table to go with those sofas. Plans for this project are available for free if you're a YouTube channel or Patreon member, or for a small fee via my Etsy store. Links are in the description box below for those too. I pivot the miter saw to a 10-degree angle so that I can start cutting the legs to length. These pieces need a 10-degree angle at both ends. Once the first one is cut, I can use that as a template to mark up the others and cut those two to give me 4 identical legs. Next I can cut the apron rails, which will join 2 of the legs together, which also need a 10-degree angle on both ends. I then take 2 of the legs and 1 apron rail, and they're going to be positioned together like this. I apply some exterior grade polyurethane glue, and then I can drill some pilot holes at an angle, basically pocket holes but without the use of a jig. Much like the outdoor sofas that I built, all of the joinery on this one is just simply butt joints, glue and screws. Quick, simple and plenty strong enough for the application. I'm using a mixture of 65mm decking screws and then wherever I can some longer 100mm screws, and I'm burying the heads beneath the surface of the timber. I can then put them to one side, and then after half an hour I can scrape away the excess glue as this stuff foams up, as you can see. This video is sponsored by ITS, and I want to tell you about the new ITS outlet store featuring some unbelievable savings on power tools, garden tools, workwear and more. I needed some steel toe cap boots for an upcoming demolition job, and these Timberland Pro iconic boots are just £70, reduced from £189.99. With ITS you get next day delivery if you order before 7 PM, a price promise with Screwfix and Toolstation, and great service with over 19,000 5-star Trustpilot reviews. You can also get a free goodie bundle worth £30 if you use the code RAGANDBONE at checkout. You'll find links in the description box below. Thanks ITS. Then I set the miter saw to 90 degrees and I cut some more 3x2s to a bit longer than I want the length of my tabletop to be, so these will be cut to their final length later on in the project. I'm going to use 6 pieces making up the tabletop, and after figuring out which faces I liked best for the top surface, I flipped all of the pieces on their side so that I can get some paint on there, as it's going to be easier to do this now than it will once the table is assembled. And at this point I'm going to remove 2 of the boards, the one at the front and the one at the back, leaving me with 4 boards. And I cut a couple of 300mm battens that I can secure to the underside of those 4 boards. I want these battens spaced apart by a specific amount, so I do some careful measuring and then make sure that I've got an equal overhang on each end. And then I draw around them so that I know where to apply glue and get some on there. The placement of these battens is quite important. I need to make sure that there's a 10mm overhang on each end, and then I can fix it in place. I can then pivot it and make sure that it's square, and add the rest of the screws, 2 into each board. And the rest of the boards I also spaced apart by 10mm, as you can see. I just did it by eye, no need for measuring. Those 2 boards that I moved away earlier I'm going to glue directly to the top of the leg frames. I just need to measure each side and make sure they're centered, and then I can get them glued and clamped in place, making sure that the inside faces of the board are perfectly flush with the inside of the legs. Once the glue is dry, I add a few screws just to reinforce it. Now I can assemble the top to the leg frames, and I admit this is a bit of an unconventional way of making a table, but it worked out pretty well for me. And now I can get some glue on and drive in some of the 100mm screws, and again the heads of these screws won't normally be seen as they're tucked away under the overhang. So that's the coffee table assembled as per my drawing, and for a coffee table it's probably plenty strong enough as it is already, but I'm not too keen on the fact that the centre section is only supported by the 4 screws through the legs. So I'm going to cut and add one more piece of timber that's going to tie the two leg frames together to that centre section. This piece got secured with a few screws too, and at this point I am probably overbuilding it, to be honest, but I want this table to last and be strong enough to sit or stand on, so a few extra screws will help. Now I can cut it to its final length, and I'll use the track saw to do that, and I first set it to 45 degrees to cut a bevel to the ends, just as an added feature. And then after setting the saw back to 90 degrees, I just took off another 10mm from the ends. I can then get the end grain sanded at 80 followed by 120 grit, and I also just broke over the sharp edges with the sander. I'm applying some wood preserver to the end grain, which will help to protect the wood from rot, decay and insects. As this is pressure treated timber, I don't need to worry about applying it to the faces of the boards, just the areas where I've exposed new wood by cutting into it. By the way, the wood preserver that I use, along with all of the other tools and consumables, can be found in the My Tools link down below in the description box. While that's drying, I can get the rest of the table painted. I'm just using cheap garden paint for this, as it's going to help protect the wood from turning grey, which is caused by UV damage from the sun. Not that we're getting much sun here lately though. And then later I top up the preserver, wait for it to dry again and finish painting. I did a bit of denibbing with some 120 grit just before applying a second coat of paint, which keeps things smooth and helps it to adhere. And then finally I added some of these plastic door stops to the bottom of the legs just to help keep that end grain off the ground, away from moisture, which should help to give the wood a longer life. This is a really simple, no frills coffee table. It's inexpensive to make. You only need 4 2.4 metre or 8 foot lengths of 3x2 or 63x38mm timber to make this table, and it was built in less than 4 hours, including the time it took for the glue and paint to dry. But it's strong, it should last for years and years with a little bit of maintenance, and I think it complements the outdoor sofas pretty well, so it ticks all of the right boxes for us. If you'd like to have a go at making one, the plans are available in the links in the description box below. Please subscribe to my channel for more weekly woodworking videos. If you'd like to help support the channel and get exclusive content, including this video uploaded recently, plus early access to my videos, free project plans and cut lists, and a name credit at the end of my videos, you can find links to YouTube channel membership and my Patreon page in the description box below. Thank you for watching.